Her journey to healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry, is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistance. Now remember there were 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
There's a commercial that used to say, "Don't leave home without it." I think it was MasterCard. And at the end, they would say, "You couldn't put a price on it. A price could not be put on what you and your wife did for me this week." And I'm just praying that your ministry will continue to be the blessing to others as it has been to me this week. Just the opening of the eyes, just seeing God's word with a whole different set of lenses, just understanding what is required of us and laying aside the misnomers, the erroneous teachings, the errors, and just accepting who I am in Christ. And no one else could tell me who I am but the Word.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us all week long.
Thank you for being there with us.
Right. It's Monday night.
It sure is, and we are so excited to be here with you again. If you are joining us for the very first time, welcome to Monday Nights with KW Ministries.
All right, what's that all about?
All right, well, KW Ministries. Well, first of all, it obviously stands for Kamala and Winston, but this is a ministry born out of our own life lessons, our own journeys, the ups, downs, the smiles, the frowns, the heartaches,
so
the pains.
Most out of our downs.
Most out of our downs.
Healing, I guess.
Yeah. And one of the things that we discovered in our own journey of kind of hurt and healing is the power of vulnerability. Yeah, the power of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we came together and we said, you know what? Well, there are some other things that we did first, but
therapy.
Yeah, like therapy. And some devotional writing, some book writing, some seminar development. We did a couple of things. But along that way, we also decided, I wonder if it would be a good idea for us to get together and just chat with other people.
Create a space.
Who are going through life, who are going through their own journeys and sharing that with us. For me, one of the things that I've really appreciated about what we've done here is that, like you just said, we've created a space for everybody to share. Mm-hmm. And I think for me personally, that's something that I feel like was lacking. It was not always a part of my experience. Mm-hmm. You grow up with these ideas about presenting yourself a certain way. Everybody's fine, we're good. We don't really share openly. Mm-hmm. And so this medium has been really
father-in-law.
This medium has been really eye-opening in terms of, we all have value. Mm. We all have a story. We all have something to contribute to the world. So
I think that was excellent. And didn't Shelley give us a treat? Dr. Love give us a treat on last week.
She sure did.
I mean, I think Anna Kay made little I don't know what you call them, memes. I don't know what you call them, all week long on different nuggets that she dropped on us, advocating for your children, teaching your children to advocate for themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that was really, really, really good.
Yeah.
So I guess, I always ask, what's our favorites? I guess that's my favorite now. That's my favorite one now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Who was your favorite guest?
Oh gosh, I don't have a favorite one. I think
Right.
I don't have a favorite one because
I
have pulled something from everybody that we have talked to, something that's been a little bit different each time. So I've just really enjoyed what we've done here.
I think tonight's gonna be fun.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Tonight is Tonight we're tackling something I don't think we've ever tackled before.
Well, you just discovered that.
Yes.
But it said Perseus. I don't know if she's gonna want to go there.
Well, we'll find out.
Why don't you introduce her then?
Well, before I do though, as a shameless plugger of what our website offers, I will go ahead and let you know that I want for you to go on to www.kaylaministries.net. I want you specifically to go into the shop and check out some of our products. We've got lots of great stuff in there. It's a new year. We're all about growth, development, self-improvement. We've got all kinds of stuff in there that relates to that.
If I was going to plug anything tonight, it would be the journey. The journey begins. I think that is such a really good devotional in which we write about starting the journey with God, and it's really a devotional expressing how unconditional the love of God is. Yeah. How unconditional the love of God is. Now, listen, we're inviting you to join the conversation as we speak to our guest tonight. Ask her questions. At the end of it, Anna Kay is going to spin a little ball, and whoever wins, what ball do we spin? Why do I say that? She's going to rotate your names, and whoever wins is going to get a gift. And as we go on, I'll tell you what the gift is. Let me see if she told me yet.
Now, to get that gift, you got to listen to the instructions. Talk to us. Comment in the chat. Ask questions. Doesn't matter what it is. We want to hear from you.
So I know what the gift is. What we're doing for 2023, I guess it is, we're giving coupons. Because what we did was we gave books and we mailed it out, and then we gave digital stuff. Mm-hmm. But then what we said is, you get to choose. People get to choose what it is that they would like. So we're giving a coupon that will cover something, including shipping and everything, for something in the store.
Pretty snazzy. Nice. I want to go to the store. I think I will.
Nice. All right, let's introduce our guest for tonight.
All right, so tonight we have with us Evangelist Kayla Joissaint.
Oh man, I thought you were going to try the French.
No.
Okay.
I will not massacre her name in that way. I will allow her to give us that opportunity.
I was looking forward to you trying.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Evangelist Kayla is with us tonight. She is from Austin, Texas. She's current Florida natives, but is currently in Austin, Texas. And interestingly enough, she's pursuing sex education, sex coaching, and counseling, and her demographic is married church couples.
That's what she's so excited about.
I am, because this is something that I don't know that we've really allowed ourselves to have conversations about for whatever reasons. We won't get into that until we get Kayla in here. So she says this, and I really enjoyed reading this piece. She said that she believes the church suffers the most when it comes to sexual fulfillment and pleasure due to culture, church hurt, shame, and purity culture. I am so curious, Kayla. I can't wait to get into this. Now, when she isn't preaching, she's empowering women through her makeup artistry services and wigs from her wig line, encouraging women and other female ministers and pastors through beauty and self-care tips. Anything else that you want to bring to tell our viewers about?
Yes, she says she does not pastor. She enjoys traveling and ministering, where she does not have the assigned responsibility to run that. She enjoys traveling the world. Did you mention that she's a wife and a mother?
I did not.
Yes, she's a wife, she's a mother, and she's a young woman. She's only 28 years old. I'm excited. I think we're gonna have fun.
I think without further ado, should
Let's
we run
bring,
an ad
let's
first?
bring her in. Let's
We're
get
bringing
right
Kayla
into
right in.
it. My father-in-law here already talking about some very interesting topic. Hey, Evangelist, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh man, that sounds so good. Say your last name for us in
So
French.
the
That is.
okay. The French way is Joissaint.
Joissaint. You could have done that.
I was gonna massacre it, and
Joissaint. You can do that.
Joissaint.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. How is Austin, Texas this time of year?
It's actually really hot. Today it was 74, 73.
Man, I was liking you. No, I'm just jealous of you. See?
Listen, I'm from Florida, so this is normal time of year weather for me. So
Twist the knife.
We're from Jamaica, so we, we're in Erie. This is not normal for us.
I'm sorry. If I could share it with you, I would. Just know that.
We believe that you would. We believe that.
But I think you have some great stuff to share with us tonight. So here's where I want to start. I want to start with this idea of pretty preacher. You have to tell me where that came from, what it is. That's where I want to start today.
Okay. So Pretty Preacher is my hashtag, is my name that I go by, not because I'm vain and I think I'm beautiful. It's because I believe that the preaching world and this career field I'm in is so male dominated. It's nice to see a feminine face. It's nice to bring feminine energy. So when I say pretty, I am just hinting at the fact that I'm a woman. I am in a male dominated field doing what God has called me to do. So Pretty Preacher.
So, were you at Pelk by chance?
I was at Pelk.
Okay. Trisha Payne preached on Sunday night, and she gave a shout out to the pretty preachers.
Yes.
So, right, and that was it had gotten my attention before, but that's when it jumped out at me. I was like, wait a minute, this is a thing. This is like a real thing. So, how are people embracing that idea? Is it a thing?
It can definitely is a thing depending on your denomination or your viewpoint of women in ministry. It's definitely a thing. And I love how women are embracing that, whether they wear makeup or not, whether they have their real hair or not their real hair. Everybody's embracing the fact that they are a woman in a male-dominated field, and they not only feel beautiful, but they feel comfortable being a woman in such a place and knowing that God has called them. And so we have definitely adapted that name, and we are running with it.
I know you said cross. You said depending on the denomination. So are we saying this is cross denomination? This is
for the most part, it definitely is cross denominations. But like I said, depending on how comfortable you are with women in ministry and things like that, it can be a little harder pill to swallow if you don't believe women should preach. You know what I mean? It just kind of drives the knife and makes it worse. But for the most part, when people are open-minded to it, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I'm curious about how you developed the concept. Before Pretty Preacher became a hashtag, how did you develop the concept to even put it out in that way? What were some of the things that motivated that for you?
That doesn't just come from nowhere.
So God, that's one. I remember doubting if I belonged here in this preaching ministerial space because of my look. I remember being told by a woman, actually, a female pastor that I had met at a preaching conference. And she told me, "You will never get hired. No one will ever want you because of the way you look." And that hurt so bad, because at the time I looked up to her in her ministry and I couldn't wait to speak to her. And the first things out of her mouth to me, our first time meeting, was, "You would never get anywhere. Look at you." And it was so hurtful. And I remember telling God, I was like, "You know what, God, I'm going back home. I'm changing everything about me. I'm not looking like this anymore." And I remember God reminded me, he was like, who called you? And I like to think of myself as a very tough person. I'm a very transparent person though. And I remember I cried in that bathroom. I took myself to the bathroom and I cried. And I mean, when I say I cried, I let about 3 good tears run down my eye. And I left that bathroom. And as I'm blotting my eye, I remember running into this woman. And she was like, "Oh my goodness, look at you. I love your outfit. You are such a beautiful preacher. It's so good to see you in this ministry." And I was like, and this is, I'm talking about, this is like 10, 15 minutes right after.
The same time.
Same day, same everything. After I told God, I'm never doing this ever again. And then somebody else had run into me and they were like, "Good evening, Pastor. How are you?" And I was like, "Me? You called me pastor? Like me?" They're like, "Yeah, aren't you? You're here at this pastor's conference. Aren't you a pastor?" And I was like, "You didn't question me. You didn't second guess me. You called it and you saw it." And I was like, "Okay, God, there it was. I'm not changing who I am." And I remember somebody was like, "You're so pretty." And it was just so nice to feel. And I was just like, I am a pretty preacher. And I remember people would say things like that, like, "Oh, you're such a pretty preacher," things like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that. And that is going to be my mantra. That's going to be my hashtag. That's going to be my name when I go places. That is it. That's it for me. So that's the backstory of why I'm so strong with it.
Well, if I could say something in your spirit really quick. Barry Black was told that he would never be anything. Nobody would ever touch him again. And nobody. Well, Barry Black is the U.S. Senate chaplain. Chaplain of the Senate. So thank you for not allowing that one voice, and whoever or however powerful it is, to
Negatively impact.
It negatively impacted her. It did, but to use that negative impact to push to go to push yourself forward. Yeah. So Hilbert is asking, what does your congregation? So let me correct him. She does not pastor a congregation. She is an evangelist where she goes around preaching, and she is in very high demand. All right, let's go. Let's keep going.
Okay.
I know you want. I know where you want to go. I know you want to have fun.
No, I actually do have a question on that. Okay. Kind of in keeping with what was asked from the standpoint of one of the things that I heard you say, Evangelist, is that part of this hashtag, and that's not to minimize, I'm just using it because that's we're talking about it, is about empowering women who are in a male-dominated field to feel empowered to do the work that they've been called to do. And so the question asked, sometimes people can be very harsh in their criticism or their ideas about what women in ministry bring to the table or should look like. And so I'm curious, from your standpoint, what are some of the things that you have encountered and how have you dealt with that?
So one, I know depending on the church, the culture of the church, the age of the church, the nationality, demographic, all of these things are big factors, right? And I have been able to adapt. I am fourth generation Jamaican Adventist, grew up in a church that did not have drums. Like it was really solid, growing up where I remember when I was younger and I told my great grandparents who took me to church and everything like that, I had told them I wanted to do ministry, and they were just like, "Women don't preach, like women don't pastor. They speak, they don't preach. There's a difference." And that's where I grew up and listening to and things like that. And so understanding that not everybody is up with the times and not everybody is comfortable with it yet. My message can morph, my look can morph. I always ask, what is your demographic? Do you have more young people? Are they more conservative? Are you more liberal? I ask all those questions because Just as if you have a job that's more relaxed setting versus a job that requires you to be business attire at all times. No business casual, high business attire, you know? And growing up Caribbean, I know what church attire looks like, you know, what is accepted, what is deemed as church wear versus if I'm speaking for maybe a different event on a Sunday or a Tuesday at the park. I know what to look for. So I always ask those questions when booking. What is your demographic? What is expected of me? Has your pastor, because sometimes the pastor doesn't reach out to me. It's an elder, it's the youth team or somebody. I say, has your pastor seen me before? I don't want any surprises.
That's a good one.
We've had surprises before, and and however, were they nice? Yes, but it was still a shock, and I don't want that kind of wow factor. That's not what I'm going for, and so I make sure I ask those questions upon booking. I have definitely received. I've been in places where I've heard people talk about me and not hear me or anything about me, but oh, did you know, have you ever seen the preacher before? She's some type of pretty preacher and she wears hair and she does her makeup and she wears high heel shoe and and then I've walked out and the tone has changed a little bit. And then I preach and the tone changes drastically. And it's like, oh, preacher, oh, God is so good. Thank you for that message. And it's like, I know I am at a place, and I'm so open with sharing this. I am not trying to prove people wrong. I am not combative. I am not here to fight you. I am here to let the work of the Holy Spirit do it. And I'm not here to be in the way of that, if that makes sense. If you tell me your church is conservative, I know the look I am going for. I am not wearing bright pink. I am not wearing my blingiest shoes because trust me, I have them. But it's not about me because I know any sort of accessory or extraness will take away from the listener really being able to hear the Heavenly Father. And that's not my job at all. I am just here to show you this vessel can look like this, because not all vessels look like this, but God can use this vessel to put across this message. So I've had I've had favorable and not so great outcomes with things. And it's sometimes not even my look, it's the fact that I'm a woman. It's the fact that I'm a female, and it's the fact that I'm young. I get that. It's ageism, it's sexism, it's all of these things. It's not even just, oh, you have eyelashes on. It's you're a woman. What can you teach me? Then you're 28. Well, I turn 28 next month, so I'm technically still 27. What can you teach me? You're younger than me. I have grandchildren older than you. I get all of that too. And so, but like I said, my job is not to prove to you why I should be here. I am going to preach and teach and do what I'm supposed to do and let the Holy Spirit do the rest, because I am so aware of who I am and what I am called to do and who called me.
What drives you?
What drives me? Knowing that this is not just a hobby. I didn't get grandfathered into this. I'm not like the daughter of 4 generations of pastors. This is brand new. I remember finding God or realizing that he is here in very dark moments, and how I remember him calling me and telling me ministry is what he wanted for me. And once again, being surrounded by people who say women don't preach. And even the women that I remember watching come to the church that I went to as a child, they were on the floor. They preached from the floor, and they didn't call themselves preachers. They called themselves speakers. And how I was determined to make sure nobody ever diminished the calling on my life that God gave me. And then the fact that I know that the space that I'm in, there's not too many women that look like me. There's not too many women at all or people that look like me. And being there, I love breaking the barriers. I love being the white elephant in the room. It's a beautiful feeling because it's like, great, I am giving you something that you don't get to see, but I want you to know God still speaks. And he's using, once again, I'm big on, this is the vessel God is using, because I used to question this same vessel all the time. And like I said, coming from a place where the word of God was the only thing that could possibly keep me, and going through years of abuse as a child and trying to figure out what my outlet was going to be. And it was like the word of God spoke so clearly, and through a lot of abuse and homelessness and not knowing where I'm going to go and not having a place to call home, not having family to call, and not having anybody, being rejected by my parents, and pretty much experiencing orphanage life, and seeing how the word of God kept me, covered me, fed me, and delivered me to here. That's it. That's it for me. This is it for me.
How did you discover God in some of those dark places that you described?
So, and I love this story, by the way. I love that you asked me that. My childhood church, I was around 15, 16 years old. I have 2 younger sisters. And my middle sister, she received this Bible for, the church was doing like a Christmas program or whatnot. And they were giving the children Bibles. And they gave my sister a Bible. And my sister is 4 years younger than me. So if I was 15, she's 11, 10, 11, right? And for a 10, 11-year-old girl to get a Bible for Christmas, that wasn't a thing. So I remember that Bible, and her Sabbath school teacher wrote to her and put her name in the Bible and everything. And she had put it away. But my great-grandmother was one of those great-grandmothers that saved absolutely everything. Like everything possible is being saved. And so I remember when a lot of verbal abuse was going on towards me, and I was really sad. And 15, and I was trying to think of something to do, because at that time I did not have a cell phone. Okay, so we are old school, no cell phone. You either go outside, you watch TV, something like that, right? And I remember going to the bookshelf, and I pulled out this Bible. I thought it was the coolest thing. I'm gonna pause there. Before that, I remember going to the store with my parents, the Bible store. There was a Bible store in town that was shutting down. It was going out of business. And I go to the Bible store and I see this collegiate study Bible. Because at this time, God is doing some cool things, and I'm very interested in him right now. And I wanted this collegiate study Bible. But when I asked said parent, could I have the Bible? They asked me how much it was, and I think it was $25. It's like a $75 Bible. It was only $25. And I said, can I have this Bible? And they're like, I'm not spending $25 on you. You need to find something cheaper than that. And so I left the Bible. And while at checkout, they had these really cool and really pretty Bible book case things, like the ones with the zipper and the handle on it. And it is on Corinthians, where it talks about what love is. And I'm like, this is so pretty. I'm just going to hold it around. I don't know what I'm going to put it in. I don't have a Bible for it, but I'm going to keep it. And I bought it. It was $5. Now, fast forward to that day, I was really sad. And I remember I went to the bookshelf, and I am finding something to read, entertain myself. And I stumbled upon this Bible. And it was pink. And I pulled the Bible out. I was like, I've never seen my granny have a pink Bible. So I put it out. It had my sister's name in it. I'm turning through the Bible, and it's a collegiate study Bible. I pull out that Bible, and I was like, man, what am I going to put this in? Because I don't want it to get ruined. The Spirit reminded me of my Bible case.
Yep.
It was the perfect size and fit for that Bible. And my sister was 11 at the time, so it was easy to barter things with her. And I said, can I trade you something for this Bible? And she's like, I don't even read it anyway. That's fine. That was my very first Bible. I preached from that Bible. I still have it for years.
Yeah.
For years. That was the first Bible I preached from. And up until I, got tech savvy and now I have an iPad to preach from. But that was how I preached, from an actual Bible and little index cards with bullet points. And that study Bible, I can show you. I still have it. I have highlighted. The pages are a little worn. That has been my best friend. I said, God, you're funny. you are a funny God. You're really funny. Because I prayed to you and I asked you for a Bible. My parents rejected it and I thought that was it. But you had something in your back pocket for me. And that showed me, God, you never forgot me. You always listen to me. And even when I forget, you remember. And that is how the word has kept me, because I've been standing on promises of God for a long time. Ever since that moment, I can tell you how I've been in some really crazy situations, but I have not, because I remember how I got that Bible.
Yeah.
Nothing really scares me too much. I might freak out a little bit, because that's flesh and I'm human, but I am so, if there's anybody that believes God can do it, I believe it. There is nothing I don't even anymore. Oh,
My wife is gonna take us the rest of the way, but before she does, I don't know you, I've never met you before.
No.
I'm so sorry for every pain that you have ever felt. I'm so sorry for every negative word that has ever been spoken to you. I am so sorry for every and any dark place that you have ever been in. And I am so sorry for any pain that you have felt and the pain that you will feel because of our church. I am so sorry. And so, for anything that you have not heard an apology from, please hear it. I am so sorry.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, I want to switch gears a little bit, but I want to pause here because there's some young lady who's going to be listening to this, whether it's tonight, 6 months from now, a year from now. And that young lady is questioning whether or not this is the right place for her, which is wild that we have to question it at all. But nonetheless, that's the reality.
And not just this field, but a young lady in a certain position
in male-dominated
fields, wherever they're questioning themselves,
whether or not they belong there, whether or not they fit, whether or not they're equipped. Say something to that young lady right now.
Speak to your 15-year-old self.
Oh, for sure. If there's anything I can tell any woman, would be to love yourself, get to know yourself, and heal. You have to heal from now. You have to start the healing process from now. Don't ever put it at a place where you start collecting hurt and it becomes extra baggage. We like bags as women, but there's certain bags that we should not want to collect. Yes. And these are the ones. Why? Because it comes out later on, whether it implodes within us and stops us before we reach we finish reaching where God has for us, or we end up exploding on other people who are there to not hurt us but build us, right? And when I say love yourself, it comes to a place of understanding to give yourself grace, so much grace. The people that say things about you, that is not you. That's not your fault. The people who want to stop you and put up barriers so you can't make it, I want to tell you the plans that God has for you, no man can limit or restrict or stop or put a pause on, because God has called you to that. If God has called you, that is the only voice you listen to, because the enemy will use people closest to you, your parents, family members, best friends, relationships, to try and knock you down. But I want you to know the only voice you stay listening to is Jesus. When you close your eyes, close out all the distractions, but keep your ears open. And the awesome thing about the body is when one of our senses is stopped, the other ones are heightened. When you keep your eyes closed, your ears are extra keen. So sometimes a lot of us just need to close our eyes because there's too many distractions. Close your eyes and listen to the voice. Because if it led you before, it would never lead you astray. And that would be what I would say to her.
I love that. Love that. So, the topic of sex. You talked about your background. I can completely relate to that. I am Jamaican. So I grew up
yes,
in very conservative church settings. And the topic of sex and sexual relations and all of those things were kind of relegated to, you don't need to hear about that just yet, unless you had parents who were progressive and wanted to have those discussions. But we never really had those discussions as people in a collective setting. Tell us a little bit about your pursuit of this area, this much needed area of understanding, and how did you get there? What are you hoping that married couples will get from your pursuit of this?
Okay, so I feel God ordained, God called area in my life, right? Because I remember growing up and hearing people in church cheating all the time. That was like, and it wasn't, it wasn't normal, not normal. It was definitely normal. It was like this. It was whenever anybody described it, the offending party always made it like an itch, like they couldn't contain it and they couldn't fix this with their spouses, so they had to find it elsewhere. And I'm just like, wait a minute. You as the church tell us don't do anything. Then you tell us find one person. Then you tell us do it all with that one person. Then you tell us make 5 children. And you people who are now married, who can have sex all you want to, are cheating? This doesn't make any sense to me. Where's the math is not mathing here for me. And so understanding the psychological aspect of it, right? As I mentioned before, we as women are told, hey, don't have sex. I mean, they tell men, but it's not the same as women, if we can just be frank. Don't do anything. Pray. Keep your legs closed. If you don't, you're fast. If you don't, you're this and that. A bunch of derogatory terms. If you get pregnant, you're an awful person. You're a single mother. Nobody will ever want you. Your worth goes down when you're a pregnant mother and you're a young teen and you can't get a job and you can't finish school. All these things happen to women, right? Then we get to, but now you're married. Oh, give your husband the best sex of his life and make sure you have 5 children. If you told me I'm not allowed to understand what sex is, didn't even let me educate myself on it. How am I supposed to perform something I have no education on? I have no understanding of it. And I remember having so many girlfriends and so many girls in the church who were like, oh, I'm a virgin, and I'm going to stay this way forever until I meet my husband, and it's going to be great. But then as I got older, I remember meeting women who were afraid of getting married. They were afraid of having sex for the first time. There was too many questions. They were nervous. Who was going to teach them? And then we get into an area where men, and no offense to you, Winston, when I generalize the population, a lot of men are not good teachers. A lot of men are not good teachers. You know, they are good dictators, good askers. They are great at asking for things. But how do you teach me how to do it? And when you have one spouse who is not teaching you, but making all these requests, and the other spouse that does not know how to fulfill those needs and requests, and she has questions herself, what do we have? We have confusion. We have irritability. We have sexual frustration. We have people who are curious about other people. And then it comes to a point where, how are we building and keeping that, right? Then we have a culture and a mindset because it's there. I remember speaking to people it's crazy how let me see, how cool and relaxed the same generation who told us we couldn't wear lipstick and only had to wear pantyhose. All of a sudden we get to a certain age and they're telling you you gotta ride the boat before you buy it and things like that. And I'm just like, how do we get here to this endpoint, right? And then not only that, there's this weird mindset where we give men passes for cheating. Oh, he's a man. That's what men do. Sweetheart, don't worry about it. If you take care of your home and if you're cleaning and cooking for him, he's going to stay. Where did we get that theology from? There was way too many question marks that I was trying to piece together all the inspiration and all the wise counsel that these older women and people in the church were trying to give young women, and it wasn't making sense. Nothing was making sense. If you're so happy and you love the Lord, then why are we cheating? If you're so happy and you love the Lord, why is sex awkward for you? If we're so happy and we love the Lord and we have the truth and we know God, why do you have 12 children, but you don't like saying sex? The word alone makes you blush and freak out, but you have 12 children. So how did you make 12 children if you don't like talking about sex? And then I realized, and I put two and two together, there's this ugly connotation of guilt and shame on sex. And when you bring God into it, people feel dirty. But I thought y'all were having Holy Ghost sanctified. I thought when you stood in front of the pastor and all your family and you said, I do, I thought we agreed that we could have enjoyable, God-filled, Holy Ghost sex. That's what we agreed to. Why did we get to a point where we're running from it?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I told God, I said, okay, Jesus, we need to work this out. Because the world has great sex. They tell us all the time. They're always gloating about the kind of sex they have. And they tell us they tell us that they do it with anybody at any time of day, in any place. They make songs about it. The rap lyrics, the R&B song, everybody talk about sex except
music. Yeah.
We're not talking about it. And so it's like, if this is supposed to be so beautiful, why do we make it to be so ugly? What is it about it? And like I said, when I started piecing things together, there is shame. There is guilt. There is embarrassment. There is hurt. The rape culture and molestation demographic and population in the church is so rampant that people are so afraid to enjoy it. If I was raped as a child and I haven't had sex yet or still, there's some weird thing where I think if I get married, I'm going to love having sex with my husband because it's not the person who raped me. But as soon as our husband touches our leg, as soon as he breathes in our ear, as soon as he asks us for something, it flashes back to when we were taken advantage of. And now I don't have sex. And you know what I do? Because I am part of this Caribbean culture that doesn't believe in counseling or therapy, I'm going to shut off. I'm going to cover myself up to my nose. And I don't care if he cheats because at least he's getting it from somebody because he's not getting it from me. I cannot tell you how many older women I met like that.
Mhm.
That was the truth behind it. That was the truth. And I'm just like, no, we cannot. That is not what we want to pass down. That is not it. So before I answer any more questions by talking more, I'm gonna stop talking so you can ask another question.
No, I really love how you're talking about this. Let's just kind of start with the guilt and shame aspect, because you have said so much in this time. And I think you're 100% right. There is this connection of guilt and shame to the act of sex and intimacy. And how we internalize that over time is a mystery. I found myself thinking, as you were talking about it, why is it that we made this connection? Man, you go all the way back to creation. Adam knew his wife. That was all about some intimacy, right? That was all about sex. That was all about knowing your partner in ways that nobody else does. And that was something that was ordained by God. How did we move from that idea to
sex is dirty?
Sex is dirty. So I love how you talked about that. The other piece that I really wanted to highlight is, what you said about trauma and the fact that we don't talk enough about the impact of sexual trauma on women and men. And what that does in terms of the ability to have sexual intimacy, to enjoy sexual intimacy in your relationship, in your marriage. We don't talk about that because, again, it comes back to what you said. If there's already this guilt and shame and embarrassment surrounding the idea of sex, if there are challenges sexually, that's also something that I can't talk about because I feel shame about it.
How do we break down? How do we get this to be normal in our churches? And you being 28, you're that generation, that you're the newest generation on the block. So how do we get this conversation? How do we normalize this conversation? Do we just wait until all the old people die, or how do we normalize? Because Kayla, let me confess something to you. And my wife knows this. I have a 15-year-old daughter. And I don't talk to her about sex. As beautiful as I believe it is, as everything that I believe about it, I have begged her mom to do it. I've encouraged her mom to do it, but I just haven't yet. I know what it is. I just don't see her leaving home. That's the issue. That's the real issue that I'm having. But how do we normalize this conversation for our churches?
Well, first, in order to talk about it, talking about it makes a lot of things more real, right? And like I said, what I've noticed with talking about it, not just you, Winston, but other people, we end up coming to the road where we talk about why we are uncomfortable, right? And for a lot of people, when we talk to our children, we have to, when they start asking questions, some of us have to admit that mommy and daddy had sex before they were married. And a lot of us don't want to have that conversation. We don't want our children to know anything like that. There goes the shame and guilt. There it is. Shame and guilt. Hand in hand. Because we feel dirty. We feel bad. We ask God for forgiveness, but we haven't forgiven ourselves. And so we are still holding on to this thing like, oh my, I did something so bad and it's weighing over my head and God is hanging it over my head. When God has already tossed the thing a long time ago. Tossed it. But it's us that's holding on to this. When we talk about sex and when we start opening up about it, some of us are more advanced than others, and we don't want people knowing that. We want people to know we have regular sex, we have regular intimacy, whatever people deem as regular. We don't want to talk about the kinks or the things we enjoy. We don't want to talk about the cute things. We don't want to talk about it. No. We have regular sex. The lights are off. Maybe a little candle is burning, and it's in a bed. That's it. That's the whole conversation. When that's not it. That is not it at all. And we don't want to open up those doors. In order for us to have it in a church setting, we have to feel safe. That's with any type of therapy, any type of counseling, any type of venting, right? In order for you to vent, you have to feel safe to the person you're venting to. Church, we feel judged. Before we even walk through the door, we feel judged. We don't want to talk about how our child is 10 years older than we have been married. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about how our little girl is in our wedding photos as the ring bearer or the flower girl. We don't want to talk about that because we feel guilty and we're embarrassed about it, and we don't want people judging us for it. But where is the cross? Where is the blood that was shed that we get all excited about at the end of a sermon? Where is the same freedom that we talk about on Easter or anything like that we talk about? Oh, when we sing the songs, God, I am free, no more shackles. But all of a sudden talk about sex and we're hiding. Don't look at me. We have to. There are too many. The flashlight was going to be on when we talk about sex because there's so many things that come with it. We're going to talk about how I don't really even know how to have sex. I've just been kind of winging it through. And some people don't want to admit that. They don't want to admit that. Everybody, either people want to feel like they could teach a class, or they want to feel like they're moderate. I know all the basics and that's good enough for me. That's where we want to be. When nobody ever just wants to be normal and say, hey, I want to learn more. No one wants to do that. Especially as adults in the church.
Which I wonder if, as we're talking about it, I'm thinking back to what you said about, how does cheating happen in relationships, and how if we can't talk about the dissatisfaction in our sexual intimacy, how then can we even address it to grow with our partner? We end up engaging in all kinds of other activities because we don't want to be faced with, gosh, let's actually talk about what's happening here.
Yeah.
How
And
do we
there's
make
different. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, please.
I was just going to say there's just different facets, right? When we talk about why cheating happens, there's many facets of it. One, and I love explaining this to people because some people get to the part where they're like, oh, I don't like having sex with my husband because he's not very good at X, Y, and Z, right? Now, not only could that be a part of it, his lack of skills or their lack of performance, whatever the case may be. Intimacy and sex starts way before clothes start coming off. It starts way before we get to the bedroom. It starts way before we start children and family planning. It started when we were in the kitchen and you didn't do the dishes and I slaved over a hot stove and cooked and you did not help me at all. Intimacy happened when the baby was screaming. You already see that I'm running late for work and you cooked yourself breakfast and left me at home. That's where intimacy started. Intimacy started when you left your hair
Or the lack thereof.
Yes. Or you left all of this all in the house and it's a mess, and I'm a clean person, and now you want to turn around and ask for all this, but you didn't even do all the other things. Also, intimacy, when people realize love languages, and that's where I am in my marriage, if I could be quite honest, understanding that I have to love you how you want to be loved, not how I'm good at loving you.
Yeah.
And that is such a big part, right? Before we even get to the bedroom, we have to understand our relational health. How healthy is our relationship without sex, right?
Yeah.
And then if you want to cross that board, then we fix all that. Great. Now we got to get down to the sex part. A lot of church people, as I've seen the demographic, we have a hard time talking to our spouse what we like in the bedroom. I don't know what kind of mind reading we think the other person is supposed to have, what we think is supposed to happen. We just think, oh, because you're my spouse, you're supposed to know everything I love and do it. And it's like, no. Another thing I've noticed with church couples as well.
Kayla, hold on a second. Kayla, hold on. Wouldn't we blame that on some of on culture, on some of the music? For example, to my understanding, and I'm not saying this is right, wrong, or in between. I don't know if this is right, wrong, or in between. In some cultures, in some African cultures, to my understanding, the grandmothers teach their grandboys how to have sex. I read that somewhere. That was years ago. And I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. But wouldn't we blame our culture, our music, on the expectation that I automatically know how to satisfy my wife? And because I listen to Butcher Banton that says, I know how to satisfy my wife, when I don't know how to do it, I'm then ashamed. Because I should have, my culture says I should have known. Her culture says I should have known. So she's not teaching me. I'm ashamed. So it's now not a conversation. So now we're not having sex. So of course then, and especially as a pastor, where I'm shrouded in secrecy, it's easier for me to go now find someone who I know my secret is safe with. They can't say anything about it. So even though I'm ashamed and they're ashamed, I don't ever have to deal with them again. So it doesn't that lend it to the cheating because of expectations, because of my culture?
For sure. We can, there's a lot of facets to why. I mean, there is a big demand on men that they're supposed to know what to do. Like we're supposed to get together and it's supposed to, you're just going to know everything, right? And as women, we can all, if I take a survey of married women and say, how well did your husband know your body when you first got together? The numbers would be very sad, because the last partner you had is not me, right? And when we are honest about some of us being more experienced, we've done this before, we've had multiple partners, whatever the case may be, when we're honest about that, we get over that hump, cool. Then we can really talk about, hey, what do you need? Or, hey, this is what I like. But we have to get to that point of being comfortable. And what I've noticed a lot is, other than culture, because I've had a whole podcast conversation with people about like Mythbusters, right? Oh my goodness. When it comes to music and actuality with the body, like I hate the way women can internalize some lyrics about what the body is expected to do or what it's supposed to look like and what it's supposed to this and that and the rest, without being too explicit, because I know that it has multifacets, right? So all these other things that the body is how it's supposed to perform and look and do. And it's like, that's somebody else's body. But sweetheart, what does your body do? How does it react? Knowing what you want, right? And if there's one thing I can say when I talk to couples, I love giving this little tidbit. And whoever is listening, you can take this away for free, the game of Operation, where there's a little man on the table and use the tweezers and move things, and if you hit the wrong spot, it zaps and right. There is a married couple's game of Operation that you should play, and it is with all the lights, the windows open, something. We need to see things, because this whole we only have sex in the dark like we're nocturnal creatures is ridiculous to me. But hey, that's just my own. That's my own 2 cents now. That's my own 2 cents. Because sometimes we learn by seeing, right? And so we should take turns talking about what we like, coming to a point where we feel fully safe being uncovered. We should not feel shame, right? We really take on the Eve spirit of, oh my goodness, I am naked, but I'm with my husband, but I'm naked. Don't look at me. Oh no. Men too. A lot of body insecurities men have as well. And it's like, but this is our spouse. There should be, if we can talk about how broke we used to be, if we can talk about, man, I don't know if we're going to make it next month, if we can talk about my mom is crazy or your father-in-law is ridiculous, if we can have those conversations, we can talk about the body insecurities that we have. Sit together, hold each other's hand, look into each other's eyes and say, babe, I feel like this part of my body is smaller than the other half. And then have that open conversation. But we have to break that barrier first to where we feel safe. A lot of us don't feel safe with our partner. We don't feel safe. And so we're not performing because we don't feel safe. Hope that makes sense.
We only have 3 minutes left, and so we have to have you back.
We just started unpacking.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have, what is it, April before we have something, but we have to have you back if you're willing to come back. So let's keep talking. My father-in-law was kind of affirming what you were saying, that there needs to be sex education class in the church.
Yes.
There's a right and a wrong way to go about doing this.
Yeah.
You said something so important earlier that we didn't, that I didn't follow up on. But you talked about this idea of church needing to be a safe space. And there's just so many other things to get through as it relates to church being a safe space before we even get to sex, because our churches are not safe spaces. No. Kayla, first of all, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Secondly, I want to publicly affirm your ministry. To say, the road's not going to be easy. People are, what you bring to the table is not popular. What you bring to the table in your dress, in your it's not popular. And here's the sad thing is that in many cases people want to look like you. They want to dress the way that you do and to look like you. But I can't, so why should you? And I feel ashamed, and I'm not brave enough, and I'm not bold enough. My daughter, one Sabbath morning, she was my oldest daughter. She was probably 3 or 4 years old, 4 years old. We were driving by McDonald's on our way to church. And I always tell this story to make this point. And Ari got so mad. Dad, look at those people at McDonald's on the Sabbath. Oh, Dad. So I said, Ari, shut up. Dad, how dare you? Ari, shut up. You just want to go to McDonald's. Well, if I can't go, how come they get to go? So I think there will be a lot of that. But if God called you to this at this time, because my belief, Kayla, and this is my personal belief, the Seventh-day Adventist Church tent should be big enough for all of us. The people who don't believe in Ellen G. White, the people who believe in Ellen G. White, the people who don't believe in a 7-day creation, the people who believe in a 7-day creation, the people who wear makeup and jewelry, the people who don't wear makeup and jewelry. I believe Jesus says, let everybody grow together. I will do the separation when I come. Yes. I will make those decisions. So I believe our church should be a big enough tent for all of us. So I would like to encourage you, not that my voice means anything at all.
It does. It does.
Oh, it probably doesn't. But if you could just pick this up at least in your subconscious to carve out your own niche of the church and then use your voice, your power, your strength, all of what God has given you to build that aspect of the church. Because I believe the Seventh-day Adventist Church's tent should be big enough for all of us.
Yes. I'm a fan. I am there with you. I am in full agreement. And just a little bit about when I meet women who are a little on the cantankerous side about it. Do you know a lot of that comes from like you said, not feeling like it's fair. A lot of it comes from shame and guilt. There's a lot of people who've come from when they weren't saved, they wore wigs and they wore makeup.
Right.
And now that they're
Yeah.
saved, they can't do any of that.
Yeah.
And for some people, that is a rule that the Holy Spirit has put in place, because he said, listen, when you do your eyelashes and your eyebrows, you change into somebody I don't want you to change into. And sometimes there are restrictions on some of us. But then there are others, and it's a freedom. It's a freedom in God. Like, God, I might have used to do this for one person at one point, but now I do it for the Lord. You know, your motive has changed, your master has changed, and just your heart for God has changed. And so I always talk about, where is your heart when you do this? Is it about self? Are you edifying self, or is God going to get some glory out of this? So I appreciate that affirmation, and I'm 100% with you.
All right, and I guess Brother Glenn says what she brings might not be popular, but it's definitely needed. And since you're the only person that participated tonight, you see that there are other people out there, but you're the only one that participated. You get yours
automatically.
Yes, and your daughter will help you get that stuff. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We're so grateful, Kayla. We're so grateful. We wish you and your baby and your husband all the very, very, very best. We wish your ministry all the very best, and hope at some point you'll come visit us, or we will invite you to come see us out here in Erie. Yes. May God bless you, bless your ministry and your family.
Thank you.
All right, we're coming to a close tonight, guys. This has been
It was
another
fun. She had me crying. It was fun.
It's a conversation that needed to happen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next time.
Peace. Hang up with us, Lou.